So, today I wanted to show you how you can make a cute mini version of this bee. And I think now that Mother's Day is coming up, this would be a perfect gift for your mothers. I actually made one for mine last week, since Mother's Day in Spain is a bit earlier than in most other countries, and she really loved it. And you can also use it as a gift for anyone else that you have to give a gift to. So anyway, let's move on to the video. Okay, so the materials you're gonna need for this tiny bee are some yarn. I'm gonna make a classical bee, so I'm gonna be using this yellow, bright yellow, and black, and then some white for the wings. Then, if you're gonna be using chenille yarn, as I am, of this super bulky, then you're gonna need a 6mm hook so that you have tight stitches for your amigurumi. You're gonna need some scissors, you're gonna need a tapestry needle, some safety eyes, although you can also embroider some eyes if you don't have safety eyes, or if you're gonna be making this plushie maybe for a small child, and some stitch markers. I also forgot to mention that you also need some plushie stuffing to stuff up your bee. So yeah, seems I always forget one of the materials in the materials list. Anyway, back to the video. So the first step is to make 6 single crochets into a magic ring. So I'm gonna be doing this now. And remember, when you make these single crochets into a magic ring, try not to make them very tight, because it's often hard to close magic ring with chenille yarn, since it tends to break. Okay, so I'm gonna be finishing this one off and I'll come back. Okay, so we have now our closed magic ring. This was one of the rare occasions in which I managed to do it in the first try. So now the second round. Also, I'm starting with yellow, forgot to mention. I think it's anyway obvious by the color of the yarn, but yeah, I think this looks more like a bee, but I guess you could also start with black if you wanted. So now what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be increasing in every single crochet from the previous round, so then we end up with 12 single crochets at the end of round 2. Okay, so to increase, you just do 2 single crochets into the same single crochet from the previous round. Okay, so I'm gonna be doing this now and I'll come back to show you. Also, remember to mark your first stitch in the round, in the second round, since otherwise it's very easy to lose it and you might lose count of how many stitches you did in this round. Okay, so we're now done with round 2. We have 12 single crochets, and in the next round what we're gonna be doing is increase, then 1 single crochet, increase, then 1 single crochet, and like this we're gonna end up with 18 single crochets at the end of the round. Okay, so I'll be doing this now and see you at the end of round 3. Okay, so we're now here at the end of round 3. We have 18 single crochets around, and what we're gonna do for round 4 is just go around, all the way around, doing single crochets to have again 18 stitches at the end of round 4. And we're just continuing with the yellow. So I'll do now this, finish round 4, and then I'll see you at the end of this. Okay, so we're now here at the end of round 4. We have 18 stitches around, and what we're gonna be doing now is we're gonna start to make the stripes. So in order to do this, we have to color change to black, but since I like really straight stripes, I will do only a half color change. So I will find the beginning of this and show you how that works in a moment. Okay, so here I have the beginning of the skein. I found it. I'm using like skeins which are mostly, well, except this one, mostly used up for this project since it's so small. It doesn't need like a full skein, not at all. So anyway, so now what we have to do this half color change and make our lines as straight as possible. If you don't want to do a half color change and don't mind your lines being a bit like jagged, then that's okay. You can do just a full color change, but like I will show you how to do the half color change. So first I'm gonna slip stitch in the first stitch of this row. Since like this, as you see, we have now lessened a bit this step that happens between rows. And then I'm gonna go in again in the same stitch and grab some yellow yarn, because it's just a half color change. So the bottom of the stitch is still gonna be in yellow. And then I'm gonna grab my black yarn here, and what I'm gonna be doing is just pulling through. So now, as you see, the top of the next stitch is gonna be black. And then you can mark here your first stitch, which is now this stitch in yellow, because the slip stitch doesn't count as a stitch. Therefore, we're doing it like the first stitch in the same previous stitch as the slip stitch, because otherwise we would be losing a stitch. So anyway, as you see here, I have the top black and the bottom yellow, so we now have to grab both colors to make this round, since we're gonna be using both the yellow for the bottom of the single crochets and the black for the top. And then you just go around and grab the yellow yarn for your bottom part of the stitch and the black one for the top part of the stitch. And you see, the only disadvantage of doing this technique is that on each row you're gonna be delaying the color change once, because as you see here, the first stitch of this row is in yellow, but since we're doing the slip stitch, I haven't figured out a way in which to avoid this using this technique. So it makes the color change really not very visible, but the disadvantage is that you'll be shifting once to the left every time that you do this color change. What I meant is that here, where you're gonna be doing the first slip stitch, or the only slip stitch, and the first single crochet in this hole, now after doing them, you can place a stitch marker, probably a stitch marker of a different color than the one that you're using to mark the beginning of your round, just to make sure you don't get confused. So here for the beginning of the round I have a blue, so I will be using green for this to mark the first stitch of this new method of sewing, let's say. So anyway, I will make now another of these stitches with a half color change so that you can see. So we just go for a single crochet, but just we grab first the yellow and then the black. And if you need a bit more tension on the bottom stitch, because on the bottom part of the stitch, because sometimes that happens, you can just pull a bit on your yellow yarn and like this. So you can adjust a bit. I got a mistake. Look, if you would actually make it with black, with a full color change black, this would be the difference. So you see, it makes a much more clear peak than if you only do a half color change and then only the top part of this stitch is black. So anyway, I made a mistake there, but it was good to show you. So anyway, grab the yellow and then the black and adjust tension on the yellow if needed. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Just do it until the end of the round and I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so we're now at the end of round 5, and because of the way we did the half color change here, it becomes maybe a bit confusing, because as you see, the first stitch from this round, from round 5, is yellow, so we cannot be doing the slip stitch with black there because it would look a bit weird. So actually what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna keep on with this half color change for one stitch more. So into the first stitch of the next round is also gonna be this half yellow half black stitch, And then we're gonna be doing the slip stitch in the next one. So here for the first stitch, it's a bit difficult because it's like it also has the first stitch like the slip stitch from before, so it's a bit tight, but anyway. So we're gonna be doing it like this. And now here we have our first stitch from this round. And now it's when I'm gonna be doing, you see that there's like a small step there. And here is when I'm gonna be doing the slip stitch. So now I'm just grabbing the black, and here in the second stitch of the round I'm gonna be doing the slip stitch. Okay, and as you see, it's a bit visible, the color change, but not so much. And as you can also see, the stripe is very straight, although now when you make the next round it will be a bit less straight because it pulls it a bit, but it's still a lot more straight, this transition, than if you would do a full color change. Then it would be full of peaks here. And then what I'm gonna be doing for round 6, because I want the stripe in the front to be thin, is I'm gonna be doing already a half color change to yellow. So basically the same thing that we've been doing. So is in the same stitch where we slip stitched, we're gonna be doing the half color change. So this means now it's half color change from black to yellow. So we first grab the black and then we grab the yellow. And as you see, now we have again the yellow on top, and as you see as well, it pulls it a bit here, so it's not that straight anymore, but it's still a lot straighter than if you would be doing full color changes. So now we just go the whole way around. Again, we will end up with 18 stitches on the row. I did it the wrong way around. Oh no, I'm gonna be finishing this round now. Just it will end up being 18 stitches around, and with black on the bottom and yellow on the top. Okay, so we're now at the end of round 6. We finished our first stripe, which is a thin stripe. This bee is only gonna have 2 stripes, one thin and one thicker. So now what we're gonna be doing is a full line in yellow. But first, as you remember, we have these 2 stitches in black from the previous round, which we have because of the way we're doing the color change. So first on those 2, you're just gonna be doing the standard thing you're doing, so like this half color change from black to yellow. So here into this one, first black on bottom, then yellow on top, and mark it as the first stitch of your round, and then the next. Here there's also the slip stitch, but the slip stitch we ignore, let's say, so we don't count it as a stitch. So, and as you see, the color change is visible, but not that much, and there's this line which is relatively straight and very thin. And okay, so now we're gonna be doing the slip stitch into this one, which is the first single crochet from before that has the yellow top. So we do our slip stitch in there to like make everything a bit more level. So as you see, it's really not very obvious, the color change. And then again in there we start with our full yellow single crochets. Okay, so I'll be doing this until the end of the round, and I'll see you there. Okay, so we're now at the end of round 7. I did 18 single crochets all the way around with yellow, and in this round we're again changing to black to make, again with half color change, now to make our second stripe, which is gonna be a thicker stripe. So again, as you know, this first, in this case 3 single crochets are now in yellow, like in the wrong version. So what we're gonna be doing is just in this first 3, just single crocheting with yellow again, because we're shifting each time the color change once to the left. So we do this first 3, And then we're gonna be slip stitching with our yellow here on the fourth one. And now we can start our half color change from yellow to black. So wait, here we have our black. Make sure you're grabbing the right piece of yarn and not the tails. The tails are here. So here we'll grab our black, and again the top of our stitch is black and the bottom is yellow. Okay, and now we're gonna be continuing to do this all the way around, and I'll finish this now and let you know what to do next. Okay, so we're now at the end of round 8, and again, as always, we're gonna be doing our first stitches of round 9 just with the same technique that we were using for this round. So half color change from yellow to black, and then when we get to this black stitch we will slip stitch, and in this case we're gonna be doing a fully black round because I want this stripe to be a bit thicker than the first one. If you want both your stripes to be the same, you can either choose the thin or the thick version, and yeah, but I'm gonna be doing a full black round. So I'll be doing this now and I'll show you after. Okay, so I'm here at the end of round 9, and what we're gonna be doing for round 10 is we're now changing from black to yellow, so again a half color change. So I think I've lost count of this color changing thing. It's really a bit confusing that it shifts all the time, but I think I have now like 6 stitches which are only half stitches in black. So I'm gonna be doing those again with the full black, and then once I'm finished with those I'll start with the half color change to yellow. What we're gonna be doing in round 11 is we're gonna be using fully yellow and cutting off the black, because like that's the end of our last stripe. So as we've done until now, the first few stitches are gonna be the same as we were doing in the previous round, which in this case is half color change from black to yellow. So here we can mark it. And then what I'm gonna be doing now, since we're finished with the black yarn, we don't need it anymore, and this particular black yarn is in a mess. So I'm gonna be cutting this off, and you can just cut it and leave a long tail. Then it will get tangled within the body of the bee, and there's no need for sewing in or anything because it's gonna be inside. So we can now cut off this black yarn. I like to leave a very long tail, but probably it's not needed this long. And we're done with the black yarn for now. So I'm gonna be finishing this round. This round is now a full yellow, and we're only gonna be using yellow now from now on because we're gonna start closing the bee. So I'll finish this round now and I'll come back to show you how you can place the eyes. Okay, so I'm now at the end of round 11, and I'm gonna show how I place the eyes in this bee. So for this I'm using 10mm eyes, and I like to use for this tiny bees just these black eyes because they're just so small that like the other shiny eyes that I have are a bit too big. So the way I like to place my eyes is first I look at where the color changes that I made are more visible. So in this case it's here and here because it's been shifting. And I put that on the bottom of the bee so it's even less visible. And then what I try to do is I try to center the eyes around the center of the piece, which is here, but slightly above, so that they actually look like they're on the superior part of the face. If you center them fully with the piece, it will look a bit goofy, like the eyes are in the middle of the face. So just slightly above. In this case, what I'm doing to ensure this is I'm placing them between rounds 2 and 3. And this round, like round 2, has 12 stitches. So if you check also beneath the eyes, you can see that there are 4 stitches, like between the eyes on the top, 4, and there should be 8 between them in the bottom. So they're slightly closer on the top to each other that they are on the bottom, and like this it looks more like a face with upper facing eyes and not just the eyes in the middle. So now what you have to do in order to secure these security eyes, you can also of course embroider eyes if that's what you prefer. So now I'm just gonna secure the eyes. For this I just put these thingies on the other side of the eyes, and then what I like to do is like you have to press them until they make click, and then once I've done this I actually like to burn the tip a bit with a match in order to melt the tip a bit and ensure that they will never come out. So I'm gonna be making a bit of pressure now. Yeah, now it popped, and that should be secured, but I just prefer to also secure them with a match. Okay, so now the eyes are secured, but as I said, I like to burn a bit the tips to melt them and to ensure that like they will not fall out, because when you melt it, it widens out the base and then yeah, secures it even more into place. So be careful that you don't set your yarn on fire or something. I'm always a bit scared with this. So for this I just light up a match and just carefully melt the tip here. Be careful also not to get burned. And as you see, it makes this mushroom shape, let's say, which makes sure that it will not come out of your piece. So I often have to use a few matches for this since it takes a while. Yeah, you can blow it out. And yep, I'll just finish melting my eyes into place and I'll show you round 12. Okay, so here I have my fully melted eyes. As you see, they have like this mushroom shape, so it will make it almost impossible for them to fall out of place. Just check before flipping it over again that this is fully solidified, although it normally solidifies really fast. And now we have our cute little bee, and we're just gonna start closing it off. So, well, first we're gonna be doing a whole round around just 18 single crochets, and then we'll start with the close off. Okay, so round 12 is 18 single crochets all the way around. Okay, so we're now at the end of round 12, and here is where we're gonna start decreasing. So here we will start with decrease, single crochet all the way around, and we'll end up with 12 single crochets. And like I would say, you can start filling a bit your bee if you want. So just to tangle these tails, that they're not like necessarily all on the bottom or like on the face of the bee, just there. So you can add a bit of this stuffing and tangle your tails in there, but don't fill it up too much since it will get on the way, and you can still fill it up pretty decently once you have 12 single crochets around. Okay, so I'll do that now, and the 12 single crochets, and I'll see you then. Okay, so I'm now at the end of round 13. I have 12 stitches across, and what I'm gonna be doing is just topping up my stuffing, just because then we're gonna have only 6 stitches across, and it's gonna be really hard to stuff it. Like, you can still add a bit, but it's not as easy to poke your finger around and make sure it's easily like well distributed all the way around the piece. So I'm just gonna do that now, and then I'll come back for row 14, which is the last round. Okay, so now for our last round, round 14, we're just gonna be decreasing all the way around, and we'll end up with 6 stitches in this round. Okay, so I'll be doing that now and show you how to end the piece. Okay, so we're now here at the end of our last round, round 14, and just to finish off the body of the bee, then we'll be needing to make the wings. So you can leave, like, cut a long tail. I always like to cut them extra long just to make sure that I have enough, and pull the loop all the way through, You can now remove your stitch marker. And then what we're gonna be doing is just threading our yarn through a tapestry needle and just sewing all of the way around, just passing the yarn through all of the stitches in the whole round just to close off this tiny hole which is here. And also if you want to add a bit more stuffing, now it's like your final chance to add a bit more. And yeah, just sew all of the way around, and I might add a bit more stuffing just before that, and I'll show you. Okay, so I now topped off my stuffing a bit. I almost forgot that. Oops. And now I'm just gonna be sewing all the way around through all of these 6 final stitches and just closing off my hole. And then when that's done, I'll show you. Okay, so here's my closed off bee, and then just to secure this tail into the piece, I just like to stab my piece right through here, through the middle where my piece closed off, and just pass the needle through, take it out any place I like, then go in through the same hole. And also if you pull here, you see the little peak you had there, it's not there anymore, so this looks perfectly round. So yeah, just pass your needle through your piece, put it out through any hole you want, and then make sure you go back through the same hole and through the piece, and do this a few times. Like this, you tangle the yarn on your stuffing inside, and this secures your piece. So okay, I'll be doing this a few times more, then cut the yarn, and then show you how to make the little wings. Okay, so now with our bee closed, it's time to make its wings. So for this I'm gonna be using white yarn, but you can use other colors if you would prefer. And what I'm gonna be doing is just super simple and super fast. So this wing has 2 rounds. The first round is just 6 single crochets into a magic ring, and then the second round is increasing all the way around to end up with 12 single crochets in your magic ring. You can vary it a bit depending on how big or small you want your wings in relation to your body, but I think this is a nice ratio. Okay, so I'll be doing round 1 now, and I'll see you at the end of it. Okay, so here we have our magic ring closed with 6 single crochets, and what we're gonna be doing for round 2 of the wing is just going all the way around increasing, so we'll end up with 12 stitches in the second round, and then basically we'll be finished. Okay, so I'm gonna be doing round 2 now, and I'll show you. Okay, so now here the last step to finalize our wing once you have the second round with 12 stitches is just to slip stitch in your first stitch from the second round to soften off that step that it forms, and then you can cut off your yarn, pull all the way through, and leave quite a long tail so that you can actually sew it onto the body of the bee. Okay, so we have now here the wing with the long tail, and I've already made another one. And now the last step that is left is to attach them onto our bee, sew them on. I like to sew them on starting at the beginning of the thin stripe and like stretching it as much as possible, or like as much as it looks good, until almost the back of the fat stripe. So beginning thin stripe and ending in the middle of the back stripe and aligned with the eyes. So I'll do that now quickly, sew them on. I also like to use this tail from the center of the wing and weave it in until here, until this edge, and then I have like 2 attachment points and like sew them both from there. But anyway, and also make sure that when you sew them on, your right side, so this prettier side, is facing up, because this will be the most visible. So I'll sew them on now, like in this configuration more or less, and let you see how I do. This is what I was referring to with wing placement, and as you see now the only thing which is left is that I have these threads here. So I weaved in, as I said, the end that was looking like coming out from the middle, and weave them both in and weave them until the border, so I could place my wings, stretch them and see how they would look. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to thread my needle and just sew the wings on properly. So just go back inside through the same hole and then just come out right beneath the wing. So here, and then just pass it through both loops, pull all the way through. You can now pass it through the next. Stab your bee right beneath the wing so it's not noticeable. Put it out anywhere you want. Pull all the way through. Go back through your same hole so that it's not visible here. And again until you have the whole wing fully attached and secured. And then just hide the tail by stabbing your piece several times, tangling the tail inside the body of the bee, and that's basically it. So I'll finish this now quickly and show you the final result. Okay, so here is the tiny bee with the wings fully secured and no hanging threads anymore. And if you want, you can put some antenna on it, on a smiley. As I did on this one, I put a bit of blush and a smiley face, some antenna. But like for this tiny one, I actually prefer it without because it's so small that otherwise I feel like the face looks a bit too crowded. In particular, the antenna, it maybe would look nicer if you have like some thinner yarn, cotton or something. But I think with chenille, I tried it and it looked too much. But anyway, for me, this is it for my bee, so hope you liked it. Okay, so we're now done with our mini bee, and if you enjoyed the tutorial and found it helpful, please follow me. I'll be posting some more tutorials on designs I create in the next weeks, or just in general over time, and comment down below if you liked it and who you're gonna make this for. Okay, that's all for today. Bye!